Everybody, this is Crystal. Today I'm going to show you how to make this dress. I say it's size 0 to 6 months, and I don't have any other sizes figured out. This is the only one. Along with the yarn, you're going to need 3 ribbon roses if you decide to put them on, and 3 buttons here in the back. These are probably 1/4 inch buttons. I just use little white ones like that, but whatever you find, they're just little small buttons, and they're sewed on. You're going to need regular thread and needle. Okay, for this project I am using, get it turned around here, Caron Simply Soft, which is just a medium weight 4-ply 100% acrylic. But you don't have to use this. You can use any type of 4-ply yarn that you have. The color I'm using is called Baby Sunshine. And then I'm also just going to use the same brand, just some regular white for the edging. And I'm going to be using a size G, which is a 4.25 millimeter crochet hook. Okay, you want to start off with a chain of 60. And once you get your chain of 60 made, we're going to do 1 double crochet in the 4th stitch from the hook. And remember, we never count this when it's on our hook. So 1, 2, 3. In the 4th stitch, you want to do a double crochet. Just like that. Now we're going to do 1 double crochet in each of the next 5 stitches. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So actually you should have a total of 7, because we're counting this little chain here on the end as a double crochet, and then the one that you did in the 4th stitch from the hook plus the 5 you just did, so that's a total of 7. Now what you want to do is chain 2, 1, 2, and now we're going to do 1 double crochet in each of the next 14 stitches. So just go ahead and double crochet right into the next stitch. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, I just did my 14 double crochets in a row. Now I'm going to chain 2. And what I want to do is repeat that 2 more times. So I'm going to go ahead and double crochet again in the next 1 double crochet in the next 14 stitches. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, I did 14 double crochets again. So now I'm going to chain 2 and I'm going to repeat it again. So I want to put 1 double crochet in each of the next 14 stitches. There's 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, I just did 14 again, and now I'm going to chain 2. And now you should have 9 stitches left, and you want to go ahead and do 1 double crochet in the last 9 stitches. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. And you should have a total of 58 double crochets at the end of row 1, counting this little chain on the end. And then you'll have 4 chain 2 spaces. So that's kind of what it looks like so far. And now for row 2, we're going to chain 1 and turn our work. Chain 1 and turn. And you're going to put 1 double crochet right back into the very first stitch right there. Double crochet. And now we're going to put 1 double crochet in the next 8 stitches. So here's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, oops, 6, 7, and 8. And now we're at the chain 2 space, and every chain 2 space is going to get the same thing. What it's going to get right through the chain 2 space, we put 2 double crochets. So there's 1 and 2, and then we chain 2, 1, 2, and then right back into that same chain 2 space we're going to put 2 more double crochets. 1 and 2, just like that. And now we're going to work across, and we're going to put 1 double crochet into the next 14 stitches until we get to our next chain 2 space. 1, oops, 2, 3, 4. Okay, I just did my 14 across, and I'm at my next chain 2 space. So what I'm going to do is do right through the space 2 doubles, a chain 2, and 2 more doubles. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to repeat what we just did 2 more times again. So I'm going to go across and put 1 double crochet in each of these 14 stitches, and then I'll be at my chain 2 space, and I want to put 2 doubles, a chain 2, and 2 doubles, and then I'm going to repeat it again, 1 double crochet in each of the next 14, and then I'll be at my chain 2 space, and we'll want to put 2 doubles, a chain 2, and 2 doubles. Okay, I just did my last 2 double crochet, chain 2, 2 double crochet in this last corner. Now I'm going to go ahead and put 1 double crochet in these last 7 stitches. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and remember this chain right here on the end counts as our 7th one, our last one. Just go right into the top of it, and this will end row 2, and you should have a total of 74 stitches at the end of this row, and you'll also still have your 4 chain 2 spaces. So for row 3 we're going to go ahead and chain 1 and turn our work. Sorry, I gotta keep unwinding my yarn. It got all tangled up on me. Okay, now you want to go ahead and put 1 double crochet right back into the exact same stitch, like that. And now we're going to put 1 double crochet into the next 8 stitches. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8, and now we're at our chain 2 space. So what we're going to do is do our 2 doubles right through the space, our chain 2, and 2 more doubles all into that chain 2 space. Just like that. And now I'm going to put 1 double crochet in the next 18 stitches now. So it's 18 across until you get to your next chain 2 space. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4. It across there with those 18 stitches, and I'm at my next chain 2 space, so I'm just going to do my right through the space 2 doubles, chain 2, and 2 more doubles through that space. And now I'm just going to repeat this 2 more times. So it's 1 double crochet in these next 18 stitches until you get to the next chain 2 space, and that's where you put your 2 doubles, chain 2, 2 doubles, 1 double crochet in the next 18 again until you get to your next chain 2 space, and you do your 2 doubles, chain 2, 2 doubles. Okay, I repeated that twice. So I just did this last 18, and then I'm at my last chain 2 space, and I did my 2 doubles, chain 2, 2 doubles. Now I want to go ahead and finish this row by putting 1 double crochet in the last 11 stitches. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and 11. Just like that, and that'll end row 3, and you should have a total of 90 stitches now, and we will still have the 4 chain 2 spaces. So for row 4, we're just going to chain 1 and turn. Okay, now we're going to go ahead and start again by putting 1 double crochet right back into the same stitch. And now I'm going to put 1 double crochet into the next 12 stitches until I get to my next chain 2 space here. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12. And then I'm at my chain 2 space. So I'm going to go ahead and put my 2 doubles, a chain 2, and 2 more double crochets. Just like that. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to put, sorry, I wrote it down so I knew how many stitches, so I'm trying to read it. I'm going to put 1 double crochet in the next 22 stitches across here until I get to my next chain 2 space, and then that's where I'll put my 2 doubles, chain 2, 2 doubles, and I'm going to repeat that 2 times. So there'll be 22 stitches here to your next chain 2 space, and you'll get your 2 doubles, chain 2, 2 doubles, and then there'll be 22 stitches here until your next chain 2 space. Okay, I made it here to my last chain 2 space, and I went ahead and did my 2 doubles, chain 2 and 2 doubles, and then you should have 11 stitches remaining, and I just went ahead and double crocheted across my 11 remaining stitches. So I'm on number 9. Here's 10 and 11. And now we'll end row 4, and you should have a total of 106 stitches at the end of this round, and you'll still, of course, have your 4 chain 2 spaces. Now we're going to start row 5 by chaining 1 and turning our work. We're going to go ahead and put 1 double crochet right back into the same stitch, like that, and then we're going to go ahead and put 1 double crochet in the next 12 stitches across here until we get to our chain 2 space. 1, 2, 3. Okay, I'm at my first chain 2 space, and I'm just going to do my 2 doubles, chain 2, and 2 more doubles into that same chain 2 space. And now what we're going to do is we'll have 26 stitches across here until I get to my next chain 2 space, and then I work my 2 doubles, chain 2, 2 doubles, and I just repeat that 2 more times. So 26 across here to my next chain 2 space, and then 26 again until I get to my last chain 2 space. Okay, I made it to my last chain 2 space there, and now you should have 15 stitches remaining, and you want to go ahead and double crochet in those last 15. Okay, I just did the 15 across, and you should have a total of 122 stitches, and that will end row 5. And now we're going to form the armholes. So we're going to start row 6 by chaining 1 and turning our work. So row 6 is the armhole row. It sounded funny. Okay, we're going to go ahead and start by putting 1 double crochet right back into that same stitch, just like we normally been doing. And now we're going to do 1 double crochet in the next 16 stitches until we get to our next, or till we get to our first chain 2 space. So there should be 16 now. There's 1, not counting that first one, 2, 3. Okay, once you make it to your first chain 2 space, we're going to do something a little different here because it's the armhole roll. We're just going to work 2 double crochets into that chain 2 space. So just 2 doubles right into that space. 1 and 2. Now we're going to skip all these stitches until we get to the next chain 2 space. There should be 30 to skip. So skip all 30 of these. And when you come over to your next chain 2 space, and just put 2 double crochets in it. So I kind of just fold it over like this and yarn over and go right into that space and double crochet 2 times. So there's 1 and 2, and that is the first armhole formed. Now I'm going to go ahead and put 1 double crochet in the next 30 stitches. This is like the front of it, of the dress. So 1 double in the next 30 stitches until you get to your next chain 2 space. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I did my 30 double crochet across, and I made it to my next chain 2 space. So I'm going to go ahead and put just 2 double crochets in to the chain 2 space. So there's 1 and 2, and now we're going to skip these 30 stitches, and we're going to go to the next chain 2 space, and we're going to put 2 double crochets into that chain 2 space. 1, 2, and that is our second armhole formed right there. And now we're just going to go ahead and put 1 double crochet in these last 15 stitches. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4. Once you get the 15 done there, that'll end row 6. I'm going to end my row 6 here. And this is how we're going to do it. We're going to slip stitch in the 3rd. Here's where I'm at. Here's where I ended. I'm going to come over to this next half. So you place your piece like that. And I'm going to slip stitch in the 3rd stitch over. So here's, this one's 1. This counts as 1 because it has that chain 1 on the end. So there's 1, 2, slip stitch in this 3rd one. I know this one kind of looks like it's funny because it has that chain 1, but that big thing is just counts as 1. So 1, 2, slip stitch into the 3rd one, and that will end, oops, row 6. So once you slip stitch into this here, you should have a total of 68 stitches. Not counting these 2 here, we're not going to work in these 2 anymore. So 68, counting, starting from the one you slip stitched into all the way around here. Not counting these armholes, but all the way around the front, all the way back to the beginning. Not counting either armhole or not counting these 2, you'll have a total of 68 stitches. So it has a little bit of a flap over. And you can see it when you pull it out like that. That's going to be, we're going to put the buttons here and they'll hook to this little bit of a flap over. So if yours is supposed to have a flap over like that, 2 stitch flap over. You can see it here, 1, 2. And that's where we'll put the buttons later. And that'll hook it together all the way down. So that's normal. Now we're going to start round 7, because now we're going to work in rounds. And we're going to start by chaining 1. Now we're going to be working V-stitches, and I'm going to do, or this row will have a row of V-stitch increases. So what I'm going to do is chain 1. Now in this very first stitch that we slip stitch, we're not working in these 2 anymore. Never again. We're not going to work in these. Those are just the flap over. We're going to work in the one that we slip stitched into. So we're going to yarn over and we're going to do a V-stitch increase. So I'm going to put a double crochet. I'm going to chain 1, go back into the same stitch, do another double crochet, chain 1, and go back into the same stitch and do another double crochet. And that is how I'm doing a V-stitch increase. You can see now there's 2 V-stitches together. Now I'm going to skip the next stitch, and in the next stitch I'm just going to do a regular V-stitch. So I'm going to skip this one, and in this one I'm going to double crochet, chain 1, and go back into the same stitch and double crochet. And that is just a regular V-stitch. Just like that. Now I'm going to skip the next stitch, and I'll do a V-stitch increase into the next. So skip this one, and then this one I'm going to do a double crochet, chain 1, go back in it and do a double crochet, chain 1, go back one more time, double crochet. So that's like you got 2 V-stitches together. And now I'm going to put a regular V-stitch. I'm going to skip this stitch and put a regular V-stitch in the next. So I'm going to double crochet, chain 1, go back into the same stitch and double crochet. And now it's a V-stitch increase into the next. After you skip this one, V-stitch increase into this, so it's a double crochet, chain 1, double crochet, chain 1, and double crochet. Like that. V-stitch increase. Now we're going to skip one and do a regular V-stitch into the next. So skip, and then a regular V-stitch, double crochet, chain 1, and double crochet. So that's kind of the repeat the whole way around. Skip 1, V-stitch, increase into the next. So double crochet, chain 1, double crochet, chain 1, and double crochet. Now I'm gonna skip 1, skip this one, regular V-stitch into the next, double, chain 1, double, it's regular V, skip 1, and then we V-stitch into the next. So skip this one, V-stitch in, V-stitch, increase into the next. So skip this one, V-stitch into this one, V-stitch, increase into it, double crochet, chain 1, double crochet, chain 1, double crochet. And now we just keep repeating it. Skip this one, regular V into the next, skip this one, V-stitch, increase into the next. So it's just every other is an increase. That. Skip this one, regular V, skip this one, and V-stitch, increase. So I'm just going to repeat this pattern all the way around until I get back to my starting point. Okay, once you make it around, you should have ended in just a regular V-stitch, not an increase. And you'll have one stitch left. And there's your little flap that'll flap over, so don't mind this flap. We'll do something with that later. Go ahead and slip stitch into your very first double crochet of the very first V-stitch. And you should have a total of 17 V-stitch increases and then 17 of the regular V-stitches. Now we're just gonna kind of do a repeat of the row I'm getting ready to do. So we're gonna start by slip stitching over into the first chain 1 space. Now we're not going to do any more V-stitch increases. It's only going to be regular V-stitches from now on. So we're going to start by chaining 1, going right back into that same space, chain 1 space, and doing a regular V-stitch. So it's a double crochet, chain 1, and another double crochet. And then I'm going to go to the next chain 1 space right here and do another V-stitch, double crochet, chain 1, double crochet. And then I'm going to find the next chain 1 space, which is right here in this V-stitch, do a V-stitch, double crochet, chain 1, double crochet, and then the next chain 1 space right here, do a V-stitch, the next chain 1 space right here, do a V-stitch, the next chain 1 space is right here in the middle of this V-stitch, do a V-stitch, and we're just going to repeat this all the way around. It's just a V-stitch in the chain 1 space of every V-stitch. So there'll be one here, one. Okay, when you make it back around, you just go ahead and you slip stitch into your first double crochet like that, and that'll end that round. Now to start a new one, you just slip stitch over to your first chain 1 space, and then you start again repeating. You chain 1 and do a V-stitch into the first V-stitch space. Double crochet, chain 1, double crochet, and then you jump to the next V-stitch and V-stitch. So it's just repeating the row we just did. V-stitch and in the chain 1 space of every V-stitch. Jump to the next one. Just like that. And you just keep repeating that last row, and you should have 51 of these V-stitches at the end of every round now. And you want to do that for a total of, I went ahead and did that. From the very first row of V-stitches where we did the increases, you want to do, counting that row as number 1, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 rows total. Or if you want to count from the very first row of number 1, it's 19 rows total. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19. And now I'm going to work on the edging. So at the end of that last round, and you slip stitch into your first double crochet, just go ahead and tie that off. So clip it and tie it. Okay, I'm going to start my yarn right here in the space, chain 1 space of that last V-stitch that I stopped in, and I'm going to chain 1. I'm going to go back in, I'm going to do a double crochet. And then I'm going to chain 1, and I'm going to do another double crochet, and then I'm going to chain 1. I'm going to do that till I have 4 double crochets. Again, I'm going to double crochet, and then I'm going to chain 1, and then I'm going to do a double crochet. So what I have is 4 double crochets, and then I got 3 of the chain 1 spaces. And now I'm going to do that in every single one of these V-stitch spaces. So I'm going to jump to the next one, and I'm going to double crochet, chain 1, double crochet, chain 1, double crochet, chain 1, and double crochet. So that was 4 doubles with 3 chain 1 spaces. And I'm going to jump to the next one and do it again. Chain 1 space, go ahead and double crochet, chain 1, double crochet, chain 1, double crochet, chain 1, and double crochet. Just like that. And that's what I'm going to do in every single one of these V-stitches. Sorry, my yarn came out in a knot. There we go. So I'm going to jump to the next one and do it again. Double crochet, chain 1. Double crochet, chain 1, that's 2. That's 3, chain 1, and 4. Jump to the next one. There's 1, chain 1, 2, chain 1, 3, chain 1, and 4. And I'm going to work my way around doing that in every single one of the V-stitch spaces. And when I get back around, I should have 51 of these shells. Okay, once you make it around, what you want to do is go ahead and slip stitch into the first double crochet. Like that. Now each of these shells have 3 chain 1 spaces. So let's slip stitch over to the first one. Now I'm going to do a chain 1. And I'm going to single crochet into that space. Okay, now the next one is the middle one of this shell. I'm going to do a shell with a picot. So what I'm going to do is all in the same space. I'm going to do a single crochet, a half double crochet, a double crochet, another double crochet, and I'm going to do a picot on this one. So I'm going to chain 3, and I'm going to go back and I'm going to slip stitch. I like to grab this side like that, of the top of the stitch, and then slip stitch, and that makes a little picot on top. Now I'm going to do another double in that same spot, a half double, and a single, and that is the shell with the picot. And now what I'm going to do in this next space is single crochet, like that. Now I'm going to jump over to the next chain one space and single crochet, and now I'm going to do my shell picot in the chain space here. So I'm going to single crochet, half double crochet, one double crochet, another double crochet, now picot on this one, so I'm going to chain 3, go back and I grab the side stitches like that, and then I slip stitch right through it, and that'll form the picot. Now I'm going to do another double crochet, one half double crochet, and a single, all into that space, and that's the shell picot. Now I'm going to, in this next space here, the other chain one space of the same shell, I'm going to single crochet. And now I'm going to jump over here to the next shell here and do the same. So I'm going to single crochet into the first chain one space, and I'm going to shell picot into the next chain one space. So I'm going to single crochet, one half double crochet, one double, another double, chain 3 for the picot, go right back down and slip stitch right here to the side, and that will form the picot, maybe here. And then I'm going to do another double crochet and a half double crochet and one single crochet, like that. And now there's another chain one space of this shell. I'm going to single crochet in it, and that is what I'm going to repeat all the way around. So this shell right here, I'm going to jump to the first chain one space, single crochet, shell picot into the next. So I'm going to chain 1, one half double, one double, another double, a chain of 3 for the picot, go right back down to the top of the same stitch, slip stitch to form the picot, one more double, half double, and finish it with a single. And now there's one more chain one space of this shell. I'm going to single crochet in it. Now I'm going to repeat this pattern all the way around by jumping to my next chain one space and single crocheting, and then I'll shell picot in this one, single in this one. Then I'll repeat it again by single in this one, shell picot, single, single in the first over here, shell picot, single, all the way around back to the beginning. Okay, once you make it to the end, I did the shell picot and then I did single crochet in this chain one space. Now I'm just going to slip stitch right here in the first single crochet that we made, not the chain one but the single crochet. I'm going to clip that off, and that is done. And now we're going to work on the sleeves. Okay, for the sleeves, I'm going to start, I got one of them done already, but both sleeves are made the same. So you want to start with work facing you like this, and start with, I'm starting with the yellow yarn again. Okay, if you look at the sleeves, you'll see that there's these chain 2 spaces on both sides from the previous round. What you want to do is go through this one and this one, and I'm going to put a V-stitch. I'm going to V-stitch them together. So I'm going to put my yarn through both of them, and then I'm going to chain 1, and I'm going to do a V-stitch right through both of them together. So I'm going to go through them both and double crochet, chain 1, and double crochet. Now they're V-stitched together. Now what I'm going to do is skip the next stitch and V-stitch into the next. That's the only two that we crocheted together, was in chain 2 spaces. And now I'm going to skip the next stitch and V-stitch into the next. And I'm going to do this all the way around. I'm going to skip the next and V-stitch into the next. So I'm just repeating this pattern all the way around, skip and then V, until I get around to the other side. Skip and V. Okay, when you make it back around, show you what we got here. You'll have 2 stitches left. We're just going to skip both of them. Don't put a V right here, just skip them. And you should have 15 V stitches all the way around. And now you kind of just take this one and you turn it and you slip stitch into that first double crochet. Once you get it turned around and slip stitch, it won't be so awkward looking. There we go. Just like that. Now what I'm going to do is slip stitch over into this first V stitch, the chain 1 space, and I'm going to chain 1, and I'm going to V stitch right back into that same space. So double, chain 1, and double, and I'm going to work a V stitch again in the chain space of every V stitch. So I'm just going around again. So I'm going to jump to the next V stitch and V stitch in it. And then the next V stitch, the chain 1 space, and V stitch in it. And I'm just going to do this all the way around. And when I get back around, I still should have 15 V stitches this round. So it's just a V stitch in the chain 1 of every V stitch, kind of like we did down here on the big part of the dress. Okay, now when you make it all the way around, we're just going to slip stitch into the first double crochet of the first V, and then tie that off, clip your yarn like that. So you did 2 rows of the V's for the sleeve. You could always do more if you wanted, but. And now I'm going to go and I'm going to do the shell picots on the sleeves too. So I'm going to start with my white yarn, and I'm just going to start in the chain 1 space of the first V, like this. And I'm going to start by chaining 1. Now what I'm going to do is single crochet into that space, half double, a double, 1 more double, and now I'm going to picot on this one. So I'm going to chain 3, go back and slip stitch right here into the side of it to form the picot. Now I'm going to go back and do a double, a half double, and a single. So just like we did down at the bottom. And now what I'm going to do is jump over to the chain 1 space at the next V and do it again by starting out with a single, a half double, 1 double, another double, and then picot on this one. So chain 3, go back in and slip stitch to form the picot, and then another double, a half double, and a single, just like that. Jump to the next V and start off again with the single crochet. Doing these one in every one of the chain 1 spaces of the 15 V's. So you'll have 15 of these when you get back around. Okay, when you make it back around, you just want to go ahead and slip stitch into your first single crochet there. And that, go ahead and tie that off. Man, my yarn's just been splitting real bad on me today. Just like that. And then you remember, you do both sleeves the exact same. So I'm going to go ahead and hide a few tails real quick. Once you get both sleeves done, I'm going to go ahead and put something around the front of my dress in white. I always do that to my dresses most of the time. If you've made my dresses before, you probably noticed I always have kind of something up in front. But what you want to do is lay your dress out like the back side facing you. And if you look, you'll see that there is this flap we made for buttons. The 2 stitch flap. And it's on this side. And that's where, and it's going to flap over because we're going to put our buttons here. So it's going to flap over and button. So we're going to start right here in this very stitch with the work facing the way that it is right now. Okay, I've made it to my next chain 2 space here, and again I'm just going to go right into the space and put 2 doubles. Oh, it's just awkward kind of, I guess, crocheting this way. Chain 2 and then 2 more doubles. It feels like I'm kind of crocheting backwards. And now I'm going to work. Make sure you pull this back and get this first one here. Right there. He hides sometimes. And I'm going to put 1 double crochet in every stitch until I get to my next chain 2 space. And then I'm at my next chain 2 space, so I'm going to do the same. 2 doubles. A chain 2. And then 2 more doubles in that same space. And now I'm going to work around again. Make sure you pull this out and get this very first one here. Putting 1 double crochet in every stitch until I get to my next chain 2 space. Okay, I'm at my next space here. 2 doubles, chain 2, 2 more doubles, and then pull it back here. Make sure you get that very first double crochet right there. 1 double crochet in every stitch here. And then when we get to the end of the row, we're going to leave 2 of them unworked for that flap to flap over. So there's 1 and 2. I gotta go do this last one, this one right here. So you want to leave these these last 2 stitches with no double crochet in them. That's so the flap can flap over on it. Now we're gonna chain 1 and turn our work, and we're gonna kind of just repeat that again. I'm gonna start with a double crochet right back into the same stitch. And now I'm going to work 1 double crochet in every stitch until I get to my first chain 2 space. My cat's meowing to get out. Okay, when you get to your chain 2 space, it's just the same. 2 doubles. Chain 2 and then 2 more doubles, and then we work 1 double crochet in every stitch until we get to the next chain 2 space, and that's where we work till the next chain 2 space right here. You work 2 doubles, chain 2, 2 doubles, 1 double crochet in all these stitches to your next chain 2 space, 2 doubles, chain 2, 2 doubles, 1 double crochet in every stitch into your next chain 2 space, 2 doubles, chain 2, 2 doubles, and then you work it 1 double crochet to the end. You make it to the end, you just want to chain 1 and turn, and I'm going to do the same thing one more row. So I'm going to double crochet right back into that same stitch. And then I'm going to work 1 double crochet in every stitch, except for the corners. Will be 2 double crochet, chain 2, and 2 double crochet. And I'm going to do that all the way back around to the other side. Just like that. And when I get to each of my 4 corners, it'll be the 2 doubles, chain 2, 2 doubles. And then it's always 1 for all the other stitches across. Once you made it back around, after that 3rd row, we still have these 2 right here that we left unworked the whole time. Just go clip your yarn, and then you can tie this off and hide that tail. And then we'll flip it over. And now you got a little kind of a bibby thing up here. Like that. The last thing you want to do is take your buttons and sew them on with a thread and needle. I sewed them on the top row, I skipped a row, next row, skipped a row, and then this row. And then all it does is you sew it on this side that you left the 2 blank. You didn't bring the white all the way over. And then they'll be able to button together with your flap like that. And I just use regular thread to do that. And then, so I sewed on 3 ribbon roses on the front. And that is optional if you want to do that. But that's it. That's all there is to it. Hope you guys enjoyed my tutorial. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Check me out on Facebook. And Etsy. I got a... you can check me out on Pinterest and Twitter. I'll put a link to all that stuff below in the description box. And until next time, have a good day.